In the best of all possible worlds, school should have been cancelled after an event like that, which would let Benny and me do our seance early and go home. But three things took me into Rosa Elementary wasn't in the best of all possible worlds. First, classes continued. In fact, Mr. Chu even tried to turn the fries into a science lesson. Second, we had to skip our afternoon recess and stay indoors, where it was safer. And third, instead of doing something fun like watching cartoons, we had to go to an assembly. I suspected the assembly was the whole reason Principal Johnson hadn't cancelled school. As our classes shuffled like a chain gang down the covered walkways, Mr. Chu kept glancing over at the sky as he as if he expected a rain of raccoon snacks. Big kids were jumpy, little kids were whiny, and they weren't the only ones. Why waste a perfectly good break time listening to some old dude Benny complained to the world at large? This old dude isn't just any old dude, said AJ behind us. I know, said Benny. Tina Green nodded sagely. Haruki Hanselman is one of the richest guys on the planet, and if he wants to say something, I want to listen. Benny grunted. I'd still rather be watching Samurai Jack, but I suspected he was curious. We filed into the multipurpose room, joining all the other classes already sitting on the cold tile floor. As the last group took their seats, I watched the screen. A computer-animated piece was playing. A spinning globe was with plants on it morphed into heavy construction equipment, which evolved into buildings, which turned into computers and finally transformed into a sparkling sky blue logo that read Hanzomun International. I nudged Bunny. Judging by that, you'd think they make almost everything on the planet. Who says they don't, he said. At least everyone got settled and Mrs. Johnson introduced our guests. I'll admit I spaced out on the first few things she said, because my busy mind was spinning various scenarios about how our after-school seance would go from mild catastrophe to a total disaster. But when our principal said something about a special relationship, it caught my attention. Today's test has offered to underwrite our school's science program, said Mrs. Johnson. Her brown eyes sparkled like this was the principal's equivalent of getting a BMX bike on Christmas morning. And maybe it was. To start out, he's sponsoring this year's science fair and providing brand new tablet computers for every student in grades 4 through 6. The room erupted in cheers from the upper grades and groans from the lower ones. Benny elbowed me. I like this dude already, and I haven't even met him. Beneath all the noise, it sounded like Mrs. Johnson was saying, Please welcome Mr. Handybum. But I suspected the guy's name was actually Hanzoman, like Tina had said. Just call me Mr. Perspective. Trumpets blasted a fanfare fit for some old-timey king, drowning out the chatter with sheer volume. Slowly the red velvet curtains parted, and a dark-suited figure strutted onto the stage. He wasn't particularly tall, he wasn't young or old, in fact he wasn't especially memorable in any way, but still the man commanded the attention of everyone in the room. Mr. Hanselman paced to the microphone and struck a pose with his fists on his hips. He looks like a well-dressed executive playing at Superman, but nobody laughed. We need new heroes, he said with a heavy Japanese accent. Where are the Einsteins, the Edisons, and the Curies? of tomorrow. He wants curry, whispered Benny. Take him to Daily Delight, problem solved. Tina got the back of his head. That's Madame Curie, you eggplant. New heroes of science need help and encouragement if they are to emerge, said Mr. Hanselman. And that's why I'm here today. Behind him the screen showed tablet computer magically flying into kids' hands. Students working on science projects and the most Hollywoodified science fair you could imagine. Kids went ooh. The billionaire said something about his biotech research and how he was always searching for the next big thing. Great, Bunny says. Let's take in those fries, Benton, Dan, and get rich. On his other side, Debbie swatted him. Shush. Our visitor kept it short. Mr. Hanselman wished us the best of luck with our science fair projects. Told us we'd be seeing a lot more of him and closed by making one last call for the science heroes of tomorrow. As we trooped out of the assembly and down the hall, I noticed a big truck with the Hanselman International logo parked on the blacktop. A team of people in sky blue jumpsuits were collecting the mutant frogs. One of them was arguing with Mr. Blair. Dancing, Bunny, they beat us to fries. Mr. Pooh doesn't look too happy about it, I said. Maybe he's territorial, said Bunny. Janitors can be that way. But I didn't waste much time thinking about custodians and pretty frogs. Bunny and I had bigger tortillas to fry, supernatural ones at that. Somehow we made it through the next 2 hours after class ended. I called my abuela and told her I was staying late for an after-school project. Not a complete fight. Tina and Danny used similar excuses, and so 3:45 found us fidgeting outside the mechanical room waiting for the grown-ups to arrive. The butterflies in my stomach was joined by hummingbirds. I couldn't stop worrying about all the ways this seance could go wrong. A. What if the girls didn't want to talk? B. What if they attacked us instead? And C. What if we opened a pathway to a dark dimension and demons came bouldering down it? Okay, safe to say I probably shouldn't have watched Evil Dead the night before, but I thought I was doing research. Mrs. Tamasisi showed up first, hot rolling down the hall in her suit-up purple wheelchair and black satin warm-up jacket. Honey there was a boneless calico-colored sprout in her lap. I guess the cat was used to her crazy driving. Students just stopped beside us. Mrs. T offered a huge grin. How's it, kids? You look cheerful, I said. Her cocoa brown eyes twinkled. And why not? Seances are totally the king. A blast. Yeah, said Tina. For real sake, the former wrestler haven't been to one since that time in New Orleans. When the girls got so tipped off they almost burned the house down. We had to escape out the recycling chute. Hooey! Benny's smile was as squeezy as a mountain bird going windsurfing. Huh, good times. Now where's our medium? Asked Mrs. T. I'm hoping she can top my last seance. Benny's face went a whiter shade of pale. He opened his mouth, and I had a strong feeling his next words would be, "This isn't such a hot idea." But then something he said shut him up. I turned, strolling down the hall in a tie-dyed robe, blue jeans, a princess crown, and a yellow Pokemon t-shirt came Mrs. Freshly herself. She plopped an oversized canvas bag onto the cement and straightened her tiara. Alrighty then, look, said the medium. He's ready to speak with some sports.